Hi everyone, thank you to be here for my first video on this channel. Yeah, if you don't know me, my name is Olipix. I'm French, so sorry for my French accent, but I've been making videos for some years now, but in French on my French channel. And I've decided to create a new channel dedicated to the rest of the world. And so I wonder, I will have to speak English, so well, let's do it, let's try! So what is this channel all about? Well, as you can see around me, I am crazy and collecting a lot of old computers, yes. Old computers and video games, so all my videos are dedicated to this vintage tech systems. I've got a huge collection and I don't want all these systems staying on the shelves. No, it's not possible, so I'm doing videos to show them to you, to share my knowledge, to share my discoveries, and I'm very happy to do it now in English. So of course, if you're interested, you can go in the description where I will put a link of my French channel, and then you can watch a lot of videos that I already made. You can activate subtitles and audio dubbing in your language if it's available for you. But for now, let's talk about our subject today, which is the Sinclair ZX81, yeah, the legendary computer that introduced computing to thousands, maybe millions of people in the beginning of the 80s. This computer, though limited as you might think, is a real wonder. Making a computer, a real one with a keyboard, basic language, at that time for such a low price was just incredible, and Sinclair did it. Before the ZX81, there was the ZX80, which was released in 1980. We will have a look at it too, and we will compare two computers and try to understand how Sinclair improved the ZX80 to create the ZX81. Of course, I've got a ZX Spectrum here because to show you the size and because just is gorgeous. It's a lovely computer. I love it so much. Oh, I love Sinclair computers. And yeah, the ZX Spectrum was launched after the ZX81 in 1982. And though you might think it's quite different, it's not. It's almost just a color evolution of the ZX81. So it has its place in this video. We will have a look at some extensions like poor keyboards, but which was a bit better than the original one. We will open the box and see what's inside when you just buy a ZX81 at the time. Of course, we will open the computers, compare their motherboard, chips and everything. Then we will turn it on, try to program something, try to use the crazy keyboard, and then it will be time to launch some games, some demos. We'll see what we can do. Okay, but for now, just let's watch a small history of Sinclair and how they launched ZX80 and then the ZX81. The history of the ZX80 dates back to the late 70s. At that time, personal computers already existed, but either they were extremely limited beginner systems, offering only a hexadecimal keyboard as an input interface and a small LED display for a few characters, or they were big systems, quite capable but expensive. In 1977, Clive Sinclair and Chris Curry, who would later found Acorn, worked together at Science of Cambridge. Here they designed the MK14, a small computer based on the National Semiconductor SCMP microprocessor. It was equipped with a hexadecimal keyboard, an 8-character LED display, and only 256 bytes of memory. The whole thing was available as a kit for less than £40, a revolution at the time. For comparison, an Apple II cost £750 in 1977. We can clearly see how the MK14, although extremely limited, broke the established codes and allowed thousands of enthusiasts, especially in the United Kingdom, to finally own a computer in order to learn programming. The success of the MK14 gave Sinclair ideas as they wanted to create a real computer for less than £100, thus respecting the philosophy of its brand to create electronic products for the masses at unbeatable prices. And this is how the development of the ZX80 began in 1978. Jim Westwood, an engineer at Sinclair, designed a simple architecture around the Zilog Z80 microprocessor. Everything was done to reduce the manufacturing costs as much as possible. The main objective being to lower the price of the computer below £100. The keyboard, for example, is actually a plastic sheet with keys printed on it, which, when the user presses on a key on the surface, makes contact with the tracks on the motherboard located just underneath. The reduced quality of the keyboard forced Sinclair to imagine a new concept for entering programming instructions into the machine. Each key thus gives access to no less than 3 different functions: alphanumeric characters, graphic symbols, and finally basic instructions. To type print, for example, simply press the O key and the instruction appears on the screen. While the concept is confusing at first, it makes typing easier for beginners and thus avoids typing errors. The 4KB ROM integrates a Sinclair BASIC, offering a minimum of instructions and lacking real numbers manipulation due to the lack of memory space. But it was already quite an achievement to have been able to fit a BASIC, the program editor, and the character table into only 4KB of memory. The ZX80 sold very well, especially in England, with over 60,000 systems sold. It was even copied across the Atlantic with the Micro Ace. The ZX80, contrary to the popular belief, was therefore not a commercial failure at all. On the contrary, it made popular computing even more real and paved the way for beginner systems like its successor, the ZX81. The first advertisement of the ZX81 appeared in April 1981 in England. For the first time, a computer with a keyboard in integrated basic language was sold for under £70 already assembled and £50 in its kit version. The ZX81 offers more than the ZX80, takes up less space and is even cheaper. The success is immediate, and the ZX81 will sell more than 1.5 million units worldwide, becoming the computer for beginners and training millions of people to program in BASIC or machine code. The ZX81 improved several things compared to the ZX80 that I will explain in details in this video, including a more complete BASIC and an improved video display. Designed by the brilliant Rick Dickinson, the new case is also a success, contrasting sharply with the design of the ZX80 and all the other computers of its time. To conclude, let's compare the price of computers available in 1981 in the UK to highlight the impact of the ZX81 at its release. First things first, we're gonna have a look at the box. I know it's not a very clean box, but it's the only one I have. I have several ZX81, but only one box. And this one, though a big one, yes, is interesting because it's an English one. Though I'm French, this computer has been clearly imported around, I think, the end of 1981 or maybe 1982. It's been imported in France by a company called Jeric, based in Chauvin. And this was an early importation because the official importer and exclusive one in France was later Direco, and we had French boxes in France later. So we're gonna try to think like if we were in 1981, it's Christmas, I just received this beautiful computer which will make me enter into the future, because there were chances that you never seen a computer before at that time, because they were very expensive. Of course, if you had a friend who had an Apple II or a TRS-80, of course, but most of the people couldn't afford a computer before the ZX81. So let's have a look at the box. There is a nice drawing of the ZX81. On the side, we can see that it was made in the UK by Sinclair Research Limited, and they are based in Cambridge. On the different sides, it's the same. No more information. So everything must be under. And yes, there is a small drawing explaining to us what is inside the box. It's very exciting, and I just realized now that what is in red is supposed to be in the box, and what is in blue must be provided by yourself. So what is in the box? The computer, of course, I hope, the power supply and the user documentation and some cables and leads to connect the computer to the TV and to the tape recorder. And you must provide a TV and your own tape recorder. And something funny, they say, okay, provide your own portable cassette recorder, and in brackets it's written, useful but not essential to store programs on ordinary cassettes. Useful but not essential? You joking? After 2 days of typing again and again your programs because you can't save anything you're writing, you will feel it's really essential. Okay, let's open it up and see what's really inside. We have to think like it was really Christmas. Okay, I managed to take this box from under the Christmas tree and I headed to my bedroom with the box, leaving the parents to chit-chat about adult things. Oh, what a feeling. I'm gonna open the box. Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay, so there is no documentation because, of course, it's a note box and the user manual is elsewhere. I don't have it anymore at home. No problem. We know that when we open the box, there is a user manual. So here we have the TV cable for UHF, RF cable. It's one side is RCA and the other is like for European antennas. Next, we have the tape lead, gray is for recording on the microphone, and the black one is for loading games. Here, it's the same on the both sides, mono, mini jacks, okay. And here we have the power supply, which in itself is nice because the design is well done in the Sinclair spirit. I love it, really nice. And so this power supply transforms alternative 240 volts into 9 volts DC at 0.7 amperes. Okay, so of course, before we try the ZX81, we have to test this power supply, and I recommend, of course, to use a modern one because the old ones, if they still work, maybe will not work for a long time and risk to damage your computer. Ah, at last, the computer itself. Look at this. What a design. Incredible. Look at those lines. Yeah. At last, he's mine. I'm not a child anymore. I'm a man. I'm gonna compute and hack the Pentagon. Crazy. Well, we will put on the podium so it can turn on itself and we can see all these beautiful lines easier. Okay, let's do it. Okay, the star is now out of the podium. We can have a look more precisely at its design and where are the connectors, if any. So everything is on the left side. As you can see here, there is a video output, TV output, which sends UHF signals to the TV, so you have to connect this connector to the antenna connector of your television. Next, we have the ear and mic connectors, which are used to load and save programs to and from the ZX81. So you have to connect these two jacks to the tape recorder. And just on the right, there is the power supply connector, which is, as we saw a few minutes ago, 9-volt DC. And this is very dangerous connector because it is exactly the same as the tape interface ones, mini jacks, and just next to each other. So you have to be very, very careful when you plug in your ZX81, because if you make a mistake and put the power supply jack into the tape interface once, that you might damage your ZX81. This is a huge problem, but it is directly related to the fact that Sinclair wanted to reduce the cost at maximum, and thus they chose cheap connectors and the same ones, so it was simpler for them. Of course, the keyboard is quite special, with a lot of functions and commands accessible on each key. It's a flat membrane, so if you spill out your coffee or jam, well, you just have to flush it out like this, and then the ZX81 will have no damage and will start again with no problem. Of course, we will have a look more precisely at this very particular keyboard when we will test the ZX and try to load something and play games. We will have a look, of course, at how it works. On the right side, well, there's nothing. And behind, you have the expansion connector, which is in fact just the age of the motherboard. This is where you're gonna plug memory expansions, printers, and so many various expansions that third parties made in the 80s for the ZX81. But this is a weak point of the ZX81, because if you plug in, for example, the memory expansion, and you just working like this, if you touch the table or move a bit the computer, then there are many chances that the memory expansion will move a bit and reset the computer, and then you lose all your program. So this was a real issue at the time. We can compare the ZX81 to his little brother, or should I say big brother, the ZX80, released 1 year before, and we can see that the ZX80 it's bigger than the 81. So Sinclair managed to, well, reduce everything in size, but also even the cost of the computer, which is very remarkable. The ZX80 was already one of the cheapest computer in the market, and they did it again 1 year later with the ZX81, even cheaper and even smaller. If we compare the two computers, we see that the keyboard is not the same. Well, it's the same philosophy. Of course, the ZX81 is a follow-up of the ZX80, so they took everything from here and tried to upgrade things. There are more commands, more functions available on the ZX81 than on the ZX80, and thus you have a lot of more commands and options on the keys themselves. We can have a look at the ZX Spectrum 2, which is not the star of the video today, but anyway, just to compare the size. Of course, the ZX Spectrum is a bit bigger, but not that much, and itself is a real follow-up of the ZX81. It adds colors, more functions, more memory, but it's the same philosophy. Anyway, we're gonna see the ZX Spectrum in details in another video, but not now. Okay, let's open up the ZX81, see what's inside, and then compare to the ZX80 to understand which changes have been made. Okay, let's open up the ZX81 and see what's inside. So you have to flip the computer, remove the small pads here, rubber pads, because the screws are hidden underneath the pad. Not this one, it's not useful to remove it, but I removed the 4 of them so I can open the computer. Then you have 5 small screws. Easy to unscrew, no problem. And of course you will glue back the pads after you worked on the ZX81. Okay, when everything is unscrewed, you can remove the plastic case and reveal the motherboard. well, one side of the motherboard, because we need to access the other side. So you have two more screws to unscrew. This one and this one. Okay, before we flip the motherboard, we can talk about this. This is the heatsink, which is very useful to dissipate the heat of the computer, and this one is larger than the one found in the ZX80. We're gonna see that in a moment. We can see here that is obviously a Sinclair motherboard dated from 1981, and this is an issue 3 motherboard. This is the most common one, but there have been at least 2 other versions of the motherboard, very early ones, because this one, issue 3, is still 1981. And we can see here the expansion connector, which is, as I said earlier, just the edge of the motherboard itself. So here you have to be very careful, because when we're gonna flip the motherboard, we have to go high to make the heatsink pass underneath. And what you can see here, it's a keyboard membrane, and it's very, very fragile. So let's flip the motherboard very gently. And you can see here that there are 2 connectors for the membrane, keyboard membrane, and these often, very often, are deteriorated, cracked by the time, so they can very easily be ripped. When I opened this ZX81 the first time, these connectors broke. And of course you can buy new ones online, which is a chance, but you can also, and this is what I did here, cut with the scissors the membrane a bit shorter so that you bypass the broken part and insert very gently the membrane back to these 2 connectors. So be very careful here. So what we can say about motherboard itself, well, it's quite small. It doesn't take the whole space of the case, and you have very few chips, in fact. These 2 ones are the RAM, the memory, 1K memory. It's 2,114 chips together, working together to make this amazing memory amount of 1 kilobyte. This chip is the ROM, which holds the Sinclair Basic. It's an 8 kilobyte ROM. Here the big chip is of course the microprocessor. It's a NEC D780, which is of course a Zilog Z80 compatible chip. And next to it, the other big chip is a ULA from Sinclair, made by Ferranti, a well-known company in England, of course, which were here since the beginning of the computers. And this particular chip is where is the heart of the ZX81, in fact, apart from the CPU, because this chip does everything else. And if we compare the ZX81 motherboard to the ZX80 motherboard, we can see that the ZX81 is much larger, bigger, with a lot more chips. There are 21 chips here, only 5 here, and sometimes 4, because these 2 RAM chips can also be found with only 1 chip. So it's a real work of integration that made Sinclair from the ZX80 to the ZX81. And this chip is doing the work of all the small chips you're seeing here, because here we have the CPU, here we have the ROM, here are the 2 RAMs, and all the other chips are reduced and integrated in here in the ULA. The ULA takes care of the video, of the tape interface, of the in-out data, of the expansion port, managing the keyboard, well, everything else. And this is where the real magic is from Sinclair in 1981. They made a computer better, smaller, and cheaper. Apart from that, we have, of course, the connectors here, tape interface, and the power in that we could find here on the ZX80. We have the RF modulator that we can see here too. And here is a small modification I made to convert the video signal to a composite one instead of going through this RF box to output UHF signal. So here I take the ground here, the 5 volt here because it's entering the RF box, and the signal directly from the ULA, which is used for tape interface and a screen at the same time. We're going to see that later, and this is why you've got stripes at the screen when you're trying to load or save something, because it's the same pin on this ULA chip. So the composite video is going out here and using the RCA connector to output a very clear picture. We're going to see that later too. We can notice that the heat sinker is much larger than the one found in ZX80, and this was one of the complaints from the users of the ZX80, that it was getting hot quite quickly. So they heard the users and put a much larger heat sinker. And why a heat sinker? Because here you have a power regulator, 7805, which transforms the 9 volts entering here into 5 volts used on the motherboard. This is a very important component to check if you have a broken ZX81. Be sure that this one still works and give a nice 5 volts on the motherboard. So before we plug in and test for real ZX81, let's see very quickly some expansions, usual ones that I have. The first one is of course the memory expansion, 16 kilobyte, the official one from Sinclair, because of course with 1 kilobyte you are very quickly at the end of what you can do with a ZX81 out of the box. There's even less than 1K free for the user to program. So if you want 16K, you take your ZX81 and you plug it in at the rear of the computer like this. It's quite simple. And now you have a powerful computer to do a lot of interesting things like play games. Well, as I said earlier, this is one weak point of the ZX81. If you tap on the table or move a bit the computer, there are chances that this will move a bit and disconnect briefly the expansion and reset the computer, and then you lose everything. Of course, many companies made several expansions for the ZX81, like AGB, which is well known. This is another memory expansion, 16 kilobytes too, with a sturdy metal case. But there have been many expansions like printers or memory expansions, of course, disk drives, in-out boards, high-resolution boards, soundboard, joystick boards, and so on. It was a very productive computer with a lot of expansions available in the 80s. And later Sinclair offered the Initiator, at least in France it was called Le Coffret Initiateur, l'Initiateur, with some add-ons available directly out of the box, like the memory expansion, the mechanical keyboard, well, not mechanical, it's like a calculator type keyboard that you have to place above the membrane keyboard, and it's pretty cheap, but it's maybe more pleasant than the flat one. When you press a key, in fact, there are some plastic that moves, and to going down to press on the keys, clever but cheap, and you have to, well, glue it yourself so it doesn't move. Blue tack or glue, I don't know. Do what you can. And you had also the mighty ZX printer. Look at this. It's wonderful. So small. So revolutionary for the time. It's a thermal printer, but with nice design. Then you plug the printer at the rear of the ZX81 and see there is a pass-through, so you can connect your memory expansion too, like this. Then you add your professional keyboard here, and voila, what a wonderful setup. ready to work, ready to do business, accounts, everything. It's just so beautiful. Okay, now we're gonna power it on and test the computer. Okay, we're back to the test bench and we're gonna switch on the computer and see what happened. So I have connected the composite video cable from the ZX81 to this Sony CRT TV in composite mode, thanks to the modification we made in the computer. I plugged it in the power supply in the 9 volt in the right hole. Beware, do not plug into the tape connectors or you might blow your computer. And then I have added a power switch on the power cable, which is more convenient than plug and unplug all the time the sockets. And we switch it on to see what happens. And voila! We have a prompt on the screen, which is nice. So there's no welcome, there's no Microsoft Basic information on the RAM left, nothing. It's a Sinclair way. We have only a prompt, a black prompt with a K inside. And that's how we know that the computer is working. So the computer waits for you to do something. And we're gonna test a small program. Because we don't have any information on the memory available on the computer at start, without any RAM expansion, we're gonna type a very small program to determine the RAM left. So let's discover the keyboard. The keyboard is, how we said, very flat, but at the same time, it's quite usable to program. Not to play, but to program. So you can see on each keys, we have several commands available, and we have up to 4 different functions. For example, if we look at the D key, at the very top, there is a dim command, which is a basic command to dimension the arrays. Then in red, we have a slow command, which is the opposite of fast right on the side on the F key. We will talk about this later. We have a graphic pattern that we can use in games, for example, or to draw something on screen. We have, of course, the D letter. And below, we have mathematical function, which is arc10. So in fact, there is not 4, but up to 5 functions for one key. Yes, that's quite special, but I think that because the keyboard was very crude, they didn't want people to type every letter of every command. This would have been very tedious. So they came up with this solution, which is, as you will see, quite usable and nice, in fact. Okay, we're gonna start to type the small program I told you. We need to give the number of the line for the basic program, 10. Then I need the print command, which is on the letter P here. So if I press P, you can see that there's not a P on the display, but directly the print basic command, which is quite a time saver. So now I have to open brackets, and the open brackets is on the I key, but in red. So I need to press on Shift key on the left of the keyboard and press I, and then I have the open bracket. Now I need the pick command, which is used to read in memory. Somewhere in memory, I want to read the value of a specific address. So pick is under the letter O. So this is a bit special. I need to do Shift, then the new line key, which gives me access to the function. You see that the prompt changed from K to F for function. Then I need to press again Shift and press O key again, which gives me access to the below command of the O key. Then I need to give the address from which I want to read the value, which is 16386 plus 266. Multiply another pick command and 16387. I close the bracket. And these two values in memories will give me the value of the top RAM of the computer. But I need to subtract something else. I need to subtract another value from another address, which this time will give me the amount of memory already used. I press new line. You see that the computer displays the line that I just entered at the top of the screen. This is a Sinclair way to do it, and every prompt command that I enter are at the bottom of the screen. When I pressed new line, it accepted the line I just entered. If there would have been a mistake in it, it would have said to me, no, you can't enter this line, there's a mistake, and I would have had numbers at the bottom of the screen to indicate which mistake I made. So this is another interesting way of the ZX81, that it checks all the time what you are entering to minimize typing errors because of this limited keyboard. And this is nice, especially for noobs, people discovering computing at the time and needing to be driven into the amazing world of the ZX81. So now we can try to run this very small program. I press R for run and then new line, and we got the result. There is 788 bytes available. I don't know if you imagine what this means. Okay, the computer has just 1K of RAM, 1000 bytes. But from this 1K, only 788 bytes are available to program for the user. That's crazy. I don't know if you realize, but for example, if I click on the first page of my YouTube channel and I download my small logo, it's a bit more than 5K, 5000 bytes, and a bit more. So let's imagine millions of people trained on the ZX81 and made hundreds of programs, thousands of programs with less memory than this small picture I just downloaded. That's crazy. Okay, now we're gonna add some more RAM. So we're gonna add this memory expansion of 16K, and we will run again this program to see how much RAM do I really have with this. Okay, the RAM expansion is in place, and I just typed in again the small program to know how much RAM do we have. So I just press R for run, new line, and wow, 15,380 bytes, which is far more better than the 700 bytes. We can do much more with this. And in fact, the 16K RAM expansion was very necessary at the time if you wanted to program something larger than the screen size or play nice games. So this is a must-have. And I'm happy because it showed that though it's more than 40 years old, it still works. Okay, now we're gonna try another small program, but before that, I must tell you a memory I have related to this. It was in 1982, I think, and I had a friend, Vincent, which just came by my house, he and his mother, and they just came back from the city where they bought presents for Christmas. And while his mother was talking with my mother, he said, "Hey, Oliver, my mother just bought me a computer." And I said, "What? A what?" Because I was just like 11 years old or 12. I guess I'd never seen a computer before. And he said, "Yeah, she bought me a ZX81. It's a computer." I said, "Oh, strange." We looked at the bags and he showed me the box of the computer. And indeed, there was a drawing on it showing the computer. I said, I was intrigued. I thought, okay, I don't know what is it, but it sounds cool. And then traditionally, some days after Christmas, we went to each other's house to see what present we had. And I entered his room and we began to play games like Labyrinth, which was very cool at the time. And I thought about the computer. I said, "Hey, Vince, what about the computer you just had? Is it nice? Is it cool?" He said, "Oh yeah, the computer. Yeah, I'm gonna show you." And there was indeed this small computer, ZX81, in a corner of the room, in front of a small TV. And he said, wait, I'm gonna show you. It's very interesting. It's very impressive. Just wait." And he started typing something, by reading on the user documentation. And I was waiting like this next to him and said, "Is it soon finished?" Yeah, just a bit more time." And he spent like 15 minutes, I think, trying to type something, and it was like magic for me. I was waiting for something extraordinary. And then 15 minutes later, he said, "Okay, I finished, look." And he showed me the program I'm going to show you, that I'm going to type in this computer and show you what it was. Wow. Okay, I've just finished typing the program. Now we can run the amazing program that I saw back in 1982. Are you ready for this? It's very impressive. Okay, let's run the program. Wow. That's a banger. Amazing, no? Well, that was it. 15 minutes, to show me that. And at the time, I remember I said, is that all a computer is capable of? Well, and we just turned back and went to play on other classic toys and forgot about the computer. And I guess he never touched it again or stored it on the shelves, That was my first experience with the computer. I'm gonna show you the program itself. It's a very classic one. It's a small program that shows every characters available on the ZX81. So if we run it again, like graphic characters and then letters and so on, and some functions which apparently can be displayed with a $$ function. The basic of the ZX81 is better than the one found in ZX80, of course, because the ROM is bigger and they put big improvements from the ZX80. For example, there is now an inkeys function, very useful to program games. This is used for reading the keyboard buffer, when you press keys without interrupting the program itself. There are two new commands which are plot and unplot, and they are very useful to draw on the screen pixel by pixel. This was not available on the ZX80. Of course, the resolution is very low, but you can do amazing things anyway with this. Another big improvement is that the ZX81 can use and compute real numbers, not just integers like on the ZX80, but floating point numbers. And another big improvement too is the display itself. In fact, the ZX81 is working in slow mode. This is, the commands that we saw, slow and fast. When you plug in the computer, it is working in slow mode, which means that it is computing the program, but also displaying at the same time what happens on screen. This was not the case of the ZX80, if you remember well. Each time the computer had to do something else, it cut the display, and the display was black. This was very irritating because the screen was always flashing. So of course they changed for the ZX81, and now there is slow mode where everything is running fine but a bit slower. For example, if I turn the ZX81 in fast mode, enter, nothing changed apparently, but if I run again the same program as earlier, let's see what happens. See, the display turned black and then on again, and everything is displayed. And this went much faster than when I was in slow mode and I saw every letter appearing on the screen. Let's turn the computer back in slow mode and run again the same program. See, I see every letter by letter displaying on the screen, but it's much slower. Okay, enough with basic, now we're gonna try some games. Okay, first we're gonna try to load a game on tape as we used to do in the 80s. So I'm not at the stock of my association, Replay Museum, so the only game I found here in my house for the ZX81 is this game, a chess game, very simple one. But this will do the trick, and it's a good example of the kind of games that you could buy at the very start of ZX81. So at the end of 1981 or 1982, crude games. This one was in fact for the Timex Sinclair 1000, which is the US version of the Sinclair ZX81. And this game makes use of 16K of RAM. So it's a good test. So let's open the tape. We have indications here of how to load the game. Let's open our good old tape recorder. Rewind, stop. Let's put the counter to 0. I have connected the tape recorder from the ear socket here to the ear socket on the computer. Then on the computer itself, I can type load, and when I press enter, you see strange stripes on the screen. That's because on the ULA chip, that we've seen earlier, when we open the computer, the pin number 16 is used at the same time for display and for the tape. Don't ask me. So the computer itself cannot display something like, waiting for a game to load, okay, I found the game and so on, like it's usual on other computers. But it has to shut down the display and just display something strange, which is in fact what is happening on the tape line inside the computer, hence these stripes. Okay, let's play read and see what happens. Wow, we have even bigger stripes. I don't know if you hear me because there is an horrible sound. So we will cross our fingers and wait for like 5 minutes and see if the game is loading or not. Wow, at last the game loaded, and here we have on the screen, would you like a game of chess? Woo! Well, yes, I would like a game of chess. And see, each time I press a key, the screen flashes, which means that the ZX81 on this program is on fast mode to display what on the screen faster. Will you play white or black? Black. Select difficulty 1. And I don't know if you noticed, but the checkboard just appeared very quickly thanks to the fast mode. I'm not gonna play a game of chess right now. It was just a test to show you how to load game from tape and to see also how early games looked like. Very crude graphics at the beginning of the lifespan of the ZX81. Okay, so let's plug the ZX Pen Plus into the ZX81 like this. I'm gonna switch on the computer. And wow, look at this. Now the ZX81 starts with a nice menu where we can choose the directory where we want to go and load games. So you can navigate the menu with a joystick if you have one, or with the arrows on the keyboard. For the first game, I'm going to letter T, right to the bottom, and start a game called Treasure. Wow. That's far better than a chess game that we saw earlier. Of course, I will do a specific video on the ZX Pen Plus, but it's not the subject of this video right now. So this is a game made by Tadeu Coringa da Silva, which I think is a Brazilian programmer. And though the title is in Portuguese, I think it means treasure hunter. Look at those sprites. It's very funny, very well done. I wanted to show you this game because I think it's from 1986 or something, and it's 4 years later than the chess game, and we can see right now the difference there is where programmers know how to use the ZX81 to maximize the features of this very limited computer otherwise. Okay, let's press a key. A joystick ou teclado, which is in Spanish. Or Portuguese, I don't remember. So 5 is left, 8 is right, so it's using the arrows of the ZX81. 0 is jump, and 6 is going down from a rope. Okay, let's start. We're gonna try. Wow, that's amazing now. It's very inspired by Pitfall, of course, but who could imagine that you could see that kind of things on a ZX81? So I'm trying to move. Whoa! Very funny too. If I go back like in Pitfall, there is a hidden level. Okay, we're gonna try to jump. Nice. Okay, I think I can manage to jump that. Whoa! Oula! Well, don't ask me how I did this, but I did. It's a very pleasant game. Very smooth. With a lot of different levels that you discover each time you pass one. Oh, I fell. I really love this game. It's one of the best games ever made on a ZX81. I mean, in the 80s. Oh, there's treasure here, but the ground is opening with a big hole, so I have to be careful, exactly like in Pitfall. And then I just grabbed the treasure, the first treasure. Okay, oh, here is a rope. 6 to go down? I don't remember. Yeah, right. Oh, this is very well done. It's an amazing piece of game. Oh, Big Boulder. Okay, this is a great game and I wanted to show it to you. But there are hundreds of games for ZX81 and I think I will make more videos exploring all the games of this little cute system. Because though it's very limited, there are very interesting concepts and games. And if you think that this vintage computer is dead, you're wrong, because every year there are several games produced for the ZX81 and I want to show you at least one of them right now. Wow, look at this. This is a homebrew game made recently. What an excellent drawing. This was made by Bob Stuff, or at least published by Bob Stuff. And the game is called Crow ZXY. Crossy Road. It's very difficult to say, especially for me. And it's based upon the Crossy Road game that you might know, I think. It was a well-known mobile game inspired by Frogger, of course, and made a few years ago. And this homebrew game is based itself on the Crossy Road adaptation. And the game was published by Bob Smith in 2015. So, hey, it's 10 years ago now. The keys are, in fact, well, the arrows on the keyboard. I think this will be very difficult to play on this keyboard. It's better if you plug in a joystick or if you have a better keyboard. Press P to play. Wow, and look at this. Look at this. So I am this round thing like a ball, and I must, cross the road like in Frogger, but it's in 3D isometric view. It's just crazy to do something like that on a ZX81. Wow, the train is very fast. I have to be careful. Wait for the next train. Oh, okay, the scrolling is moving all the time, and if I don't move fast enough, and then I die. Okay, so I made 7 points. That's not very good. Let's try again. And then trying to move fast. Up, up, up. Okay. Of course, you can move left and right, to and back if you want. Jump on the logs. Be careful with the cars. Avoid the train. Oops, oops, oops. Wow! Yeah, I made it! Crazy. I have to be careful on the road now. What is this? Is it a train or something? Yeah. It's very fast, you have to be careful. Okay, yeah, there is a tree blocking me, so I have to think fast. Okay. Road, I'm pretty good right now. But just think about what you're seeing right now. The kind of game on a ZX81, it's completely crazy. And this shows that even with a very limited computer, a very limited CPU and RAM, you can do excellent things. I mean, this game is an adaptation, like a remake from a game planned to be played on smartphones, which are 1,000,000 times more powerful than this little beast. It's just crazy. I love it. And I will do more videos in the future about the homebrews for the ZX81, because there are a few gems like this one, which are incredible. Hopefully, there is a reset button on the ZX Pen Plus, which is very useful. So if I press it like this, then it resets the computer. And the last thing I wanted to show you is a demo. Okay, let me show you one of the many demos available for ZX81. A demo, it's a nice way to show you what the computer can really do when it's programmed by gifted people. So let's run one of them, which is called No Limits. And this was made by Andreas Gustafsson, also known as Shadow of Noise. Whoa! Press space to start. Nice effect. Wow! Do you see that? I don't know if you realize what this is, but the ZX81 is by no way meant to produce some iOS graphics. No, it was only capable of displaying some big graphic blocks, semi-graphics blocks. And this is amazing. This is real high-resolution graphics. You know, you can see each individual spots which are controlled by this demo. It's just a crazy thing to see that. In fact, sometimes after the release of the ZX81, I don't know which first game it was, but in the 80s, someone found a way to do some high-res graphic on the ZX81. In fact, pseudo high-res graphics doing some tricks with the way the computer was working. They were able to display smaller points, and they did some high-res graphics games like this. It was even more incredible at the time. But since then, there have been other breakthroughs, and people just managed to do real high-res graphics on the ZX81. It's crazy. Anyway, I hope that this video pleased you, that you were interested by this little computer, which is often seen as a very limited system, but let millions of people discover computers. Many people started from a ZX81 and now are working in high technology. So I hope you know more now about the ZX81, and I hope you will follow me on the next videos. So please, can you subscribe to my channel so you're sure you will not miss any forthcoming videos on vintage computers and old video games. Well, thanks for watching, and as we say in French, au revoir et à bientôt!